The Kerbylon project was a dream given form. Its mission, to slip the surly bonds of Kerbal, to explore outer space, to reach for the horizon, to seek to strive, to never fall, to not go quietly into that good night. This is the Kerbylon project. Hello and welcome back to the Kerbylon project. Now, I've been having real trouble getting this thing into orbit. I've done a successful test flight of this thing just here on Kerbal. I've been able to take it off, maneuver it, and land it relatively well. So I think that if I can get this close to the moon's surface with a reasonable amount of fuel left, then this might work. So, let me just make sure this thing has all the struts on that it's supposed to. And I think the problem I've been having getting this thing into orbit is because this thing has those 4 engine pods there, I've been running 4 or 5 engines down from it. And the problem there is I think that's far too much power. Once I get into orbit, I don't need that much power, and all I'm doing is I'm adding lots of weight to the top of this rocket, which the lower stages are having to lift into orbit unnecessarily. So, what I'm going to do is, first I'm just going to improve the structural strength of this thing here, and then I'm just going to put a single rocket in for the upper stages, and then we'll maybe split to 3 rockets for the launch stage. So, speak to you when I've done that. Okay, there we go. So I've reduced the size of my second stage here to just a single rocket with a single set of fuel, and at the bottom, rather than having 5, I've only got 3, which means I do have a lot less thrust at the bottom, but I've got about 1/5 of the weight at this stage here. I've put in some extra supports to try and take some of the weight of these engines during liftoff. So, this is, goes here, doesn't it? So, orbital, lunar lander, Kerbal return, Mark 10. Hit save on that. Right, well, let's go to the launch pad and see whether or not this thing just blows up on us. Which will thrust is down. Now, the last time I tried to do this, I had severe trouble with the game in that no matter what I did, it would only run at, say, 2 frames per second once I reached the launch pad. And I think that was something to do with the spaceship I put together. There were 2 components crossed over, or or something like that. Okay, right, SAS. That's fine controls. RCS. Okay. Throttling up. Hang on, one of my decouplers is in completely the wrong place. I can see that already. Do you see this decoupler? That should not be below those engines. Well, we made it this far, guys, but we're heading back to the design bay. Space Center. No, vehicle assembly building. There we go. Load. The Mark 10, wasn't it? KP. I've got to delete some of these other ones. Right, are you doing that thing where you list the Mark 10s first? Yes, there you go. Select. Okay, what's wrong with the staging here? Yeah, what's happened is all these engine and fuel parts have added underneath, rather annoyingly. Not U3, but those ones should be down in the first stage. these 3 engines. Really have to keep an eye on this staging, sort of mess with it and try and keep it going as you're building, because if you wait till later it just gets too confusing and then you've no idea what's going on. Alright, so there's a rocket on that. Yeah, see the rocket there, that needs to be lower. Okay, landing stage. Separate. I'm just double checking everything now in a rather paranoid fashion. Yep, that's RCS and your 3 fuel. And we have a separate there. And this stage we have 9 fuel. And 3 rockets. Okay, there we go. Right, let's hit save on this. Because I didn't actually change the design, I just restaged it. Now, apparently in the next release, we're going to be able to turn engines on and off. Just on the fly, just as we go. Right, SAS on, throttle up, start the first stage. This thing may not have the power to get off the ground. And if it does, it may not have enough power to make it to orbit. I'm hoping it will do better than the previous ones, though. So, well, the fact it's taking off without any solid rocket boosters is a good sign. It means the whole thing is a lot lighter than it used to be. So I'm just going to see if this thing makes it to 30,000, then I'll tip over for my orbital burn. But we'll just see how far and how long this fuel will last us. There we go, that's a nice view. Okay, Neil Drid is looking rather nervous. Old me Kerman doesn't really quite know what to make of it. And Burry Kerman, he appears to have had his mouth surgically removed. Maybe he kept speaking to the press, stuff like that, telling them about the secret missions, about what this space project's really all about. Okay, so how high am I? I've burnt one tank of fuel and I only made it to 2.5 kilometers. And I kind of want, you know, this early stage to get me up to 30,000, if not further. I think I might need to just strap some solid rocket boosters to this thing. I could add that. If I add another stage underneath, then it's not going to have the weight to lift the stages above. I think 3 stages should be enough. 1 stage to sort of get me to 30,000, 1 stage to get me to orbit and to the moon, and then the final stage is to do the final landing on the moon and then return to Kerbal. How are we doing? Okay, we're losing our another third of a tank of fuel, so there's one tank of fuel left to each rocket, and we've made it to 7 kilometers. That isn't bad. That is not bad at all. I mean, with a bit of solid rocket boosting to get us off the ground, this might actually be viable. How high is our periapsis right now? See, our maximum height is only about 11,000 at the moment. The atmosphere runs out to 70,000 meters or 70 kilometers. Approaching 13 kilometers. I reckon we might top out about 20 kilometers, maybe 25. I will burn the rest of the stages because it's a useful test. Although I may edit round some of it. Okay, so on that first one we got to about 24 kilometers. And I'm not sure whether the second stage has enough push this low down in the atmosphere. We'll see whether our vertical speed keeps going up or whether it's dropping. See, this one is a lot slower burning engine. It has a lot less push, but it uses the fuel a lot slower, which is why it's perfect for orbital maneuvering. But as you can see here, the indicator just to the right of my altitude, that's my vertical speed, and you can see it's dropping. So there we go, and now we're heading down. So let's cut the engines, separate, and now this thing has enough thrust to go back up again if it wants, but it doesn't have much fuel. It's got 4 engines, but only a half a tank of fuel for each of them. So I say I might give them a bit of a kick. And separate them. See, that makes them go away. That is so cool. Those rockets are just... That is so cool. And they're sticking together as well. But there they go, they're separating now. And we're on our way down. But we have a parachute. So we should be okay. Although if we're going to land on land... Which, okay, that parachute made those made us go slower than those things. Those are about to explode back onto the space, back onto the launch pad, space center, the Kerbal Space Center. All right, we could speed up time slightly. I should reverse the way those things zoom, because I always zoom the wrong way first. Slow down time. I'll extend the legs once the parachute pops itself. Should be any moment now. Any moment now. There we go. See, if I've discovered that because I wanted landing legs on this thing, I need to use them when I land on land, otherwise the ACS, the automatic stabilization computer, blows up. But if I land in the water, then it all blows up anyway, except for the capsule. Still going down pretty quick. But we're down. Okay. I need a lot more height out of the earlier stages. In fact, for preference, I want to make it to orbit. End flight, vehicle assembly building. So, how can I do that? I'm tempted to just stick a load of solid rocket boosters on the end of this thing. Is that the cheap way out? I don't know. This is going to be the Mark A. But what I can do is just with three-way thing turned on. Oh, I don't have any way of separating those, do I? Right. Wrong place. I want you down there. And then we can put 3 lots of solid rocket boosters. Like so. And we could put another triple stage. Now, solid rocket boosters, see, they've got a thrust of 130. The heavy engines have a thrust of... So the thrust of them isn't much. It's less than any of the other engines. Like, those ones there are the heavy engines, so they've got a thrust of 200. But it might be enough. It might do it. If we don't try, we won't know. So there we go. I know I can have my engines and my staging separators in the same slots, but I like to separate them. It makes it easy to see what's going on, and I can press space twice in rapid succession. That's no hardship. Okay, I think I want to put wings on each of these stages, because as I jettison them, I'll need the stability, I think. And then I need some struts. Otherwise these things are going to flap about and wobble. So I think just one strut per thing will do, but possibly it would have been better if it was a bit lower. So strut them at the bottom. Well, we'll strut that one only at the bottom because it's held by the assembly up there. And then that one's going to be held by the assembly there, so yeah, I can just do this. And I had three-way symmetry turned on. Good. Right. Save. So, let's see whether 3 solid rocket boosters is enough to lift the weight of everything above it. I really thought I'd have made it to the moon by now. You know, I was expecting to crash into the moon, you know, and everyone to die horribly or not be able to return from the moon. But just get stuck at this stage. Okay. Right, 3 solid rocket boosters, not enough to lift what's above it. Now, I don't want to start the next stage until they've finished burning, because if they've still got fuel in them, and they get hit by the rockets of a stage above them, then it explodes. This is one of the things you may have seen in the musical montage. Right, so that isn't enough. Is this enough? Because obviously there's less weight for these ones. Nope. There's no way to turn these off, by the way. You know, you can't throttle or control things. When these burn out, I think we're going back to the vehicle assembly building. I think what I'm going to do is put another triple stage on the bottom, then with solid rocket boosters. Okay, I don't want to do the next stage because from here on up it's the same spaceship as we had last time, and we know that doesn't work. End flight. Ronfrey, Matley and Kerman. It's different astronauts, even though I got the other ones back. Let's go to the tracking station. Did I leave them out there? No flights in progress. Although there is some debris. Although that's all the debris that's all over my launch pad. Oh dear, oh dear. Alright. So that doesn't work. But I think if I just add... I could have solid rocket boosters fire along with this, but I don't think it's really got the fuel to make it up there. Let's make this stage longer. Where has that ended up? See, why? Why have you put the fuel up there? That's just annoying. It's those 3 there. Okay. So how much is a fuel tank? Mass 2.5. Although the mass while dry is 0.3. Let's put another 3 on. Rescue them so they're in the right position. I mean at the right staging. It doesn't really matter where the fuel tanks are staging wise, but it's useful for the display that's on the left hand side of the screen as we fly if the fuel tanks are in the right place. It means I know which fuel tanks are going to be drained next. Okay, and now we'll put this stuff back. Did you remember where that came from? Yes, I think you did. So my thinking is that what I've done there is I've added, for each rocket, I've moved my fuel capacity from essentially 3 tanks to 5 tanks per rocket. And now I'm going to add some solid rocket boosters to help us get off the launch pad. So, let's add these staging struts. Ooh, I've just noticed something. Look at that. That's not... This hasn't reattached, obviously. There we go. We could do with some more, couldn't we? Because we've lengthened this. We don't want it to wobble around. See, now there's a new update coming to the game soon, which introduces space planes and atmospheric engines and all sorts of wonderful stuff. And I would like to have at least made it to lunar orbit, you know, using just this stuff. Okay. Vertical stage separators. We'll have one there. Move you down to there. And put one there. There we go. And we're going to add solid rocket boosters. So we're going to have, what's that, 6 solid rocket boosters all firing at once to get us off the launch pad. To help get us off the launch pad. And then we've increased our burn time for the other stage by quite a bit as well. So let's try and get that a little bit balanced. However, I do think I want these to burn at the same time as those engines. So what I should do is simply move its staging to there, and then move the solid rocket boosters into the same stage as that stuff, and I can get rid of 8 and 9. Right, so everything fires at once, then I just lose the solid rocket boosters, then I will lose the rest of that stage, then we will have our orbital maneuvering stage, and then hopefully we've got our moon landing, and hopefully that won't burn too much fuel because they don't have much, and then they can take off and return to Kerbal. Maybe. I'm suddenly thinking, should those be full tanks of fuel? So we've got twice the burn length on them. I'm going to go with what I've got. If necessary, I can try and send up a rescue mission later. Right. So, this is the 10B. Save. So lots of solid rocket boosters and more fuel for that first stage. Launch. Clear the launch pad and launch. Right, here we go. Throttle up. Okay, throttle's already on full. Have to watch that. SAS on. Right, 10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3. Main engine start. And we get off the ground. Excellent. You can see those solid rocket boosters are going to kick us up nice and quickly. Well, we're tipping though. We're tipping. Is SAS going to be able to keep us on track? We're about to lose the solid rocket boosters. Solid rocket boosters away. Right. So it's that. Okay, so that's us to 2 kilometers already. That's a lot better. That's what those solid rocket boosters do. They get us off the launch pad. We've slowed down a little bit now. It might be nice to have like a second stage of solid rocket boosters, but I'm not quite sure how to do that without the thrust from their rocket exhaust risking blowing up the entire spaceship. Right. We're at 3.3 kilometers as we approach the end of our first set of fuel tanks. And if you remember, we've got another. We have another 4 of those. We really have slowed down though. Our vertical speed has dropped to... what is that? I can't quite read the numbers. Is that a 10 or a 20? I think it's a 10. So we're not really going up very fast, which is a little annoying. In fact, we're going up at 10 meters per second. I mean, we'll start to increase speed as we burn more of that fuel off. Shame there isn't a way we could be jettisoning fuel tanks. Well, there is actually. I suppose I could be strapping fuel tanks to the outside and then have piping going in. I might try a second stage of solid rocket boosters first. That's the second fuel tank's gone. We now have as much fuel as we did when we originally did this. But it's still not going to be enough, is it? Oh. I mean, I could add a staging, sort of like, have like a lower stage which burns off 2 fuel tanks and then jettisons. But the weight of the staging, the weight of the extra engines, I think what I will do is try and have more fuel tanks but strapped to the side in such a way as they can be jettisoned as we go. Now what, our other one made it to about 23 kilometers, I believe. This one really isn't moving up very fast though. The added weight is really keeping us down. That's the problem with adding the extra fuel tanks, is what I've done is add extra weight. Okay, our vertical speed has gone up to now to 100 meters per second, but it really would have been nice to have been doing that for most of it. Make that first stage wider, you know, just have even more rockets on it, but that's what I was trying before and it just wasn't working. So our apoapsis is starting to shoot up now because of our increased vertical speed, but we're almost down to our last tank of fuel. I almost said last fuel of tank. We're just going to keep hurling ourselves upwards. We'll get there one day. See, I want to be at 30,000 before I do my orbital bank. And for preference, I want that with this first stage. See, now we've gotten lighter and we're further away from the planet. We're really starting to shoot up there now. Let's see what our maximum height on this is going to be, so we can compare it to the previous stage. Look at this bunch of cowards. Ron, Free, Matley and Sidsley, they're all freaking out. I've not killed a Kerbal for a while. Maybe they think I'm due. Alright, and we're almost out of fuel. Okay, that is at 50. That's not bad. So let's separate. I'm curious whether or not this thing at this... Now that we're 40 kilometers off the planet, does this thing have the thrust to keep us going? Maybe I should put a slightly heavier engine on this thing, because I've put the weakest engine on this. Maybe maybe this thing does need the slightly heavier engine. See, our orbital... vertical speed is starting to drop now. It's gone from 1,000 meters per second almost down to 100 already. So we're still going up, but we're going up slower than we were before. Or has this thing stabilized at 100 meters per second? No, it's still dropping slightly. this is barely climbing now. Nope. Far too weak. Okay, more solid rocket boosters on the lower levels, and I'm going to try putting the medium engine on this stage. So let's cut thrust, separate. Let's go sideways a little bit. Just to make sure we're clear of any debris field. This will also bring us down quicker. There we go, and separate. Let's just do a spinning maneuver to knock those away from me. There we go. I wonder why my landing legs are in a separate stage to the rest of that. Well, they're on there and they work. Right, I'll just get these guys safely back to the ground and I'll see you back in the vehicle assembly building. The capsule fell off.